Rachelle, the host of the Rachelle Starr Podcast, where we equip the church to bring the hope and love of Jesus to women in the adult entertainment industry. We are going to be having honest conversations about what that really looks like. So if you've ever wondered how to engage in this space or how to do it well, you're in the right place. Welcome to the Rachelle Starr Podcast. I'm Rachelle and I'm your host, and I am so excited about launching this podcast. On this first episode, I could not be more excited to sit down with Victoria Sinis, the OnlyFans marketing agent who has an incredible testimony of being redeemed by Jesus. I am so excited to listen to all that she has to share. She travels speaking out against OnlyFans now, teaching churches and telling people all about the good work that the Lord has done and calling people to action. And I'm really excited to sit down with her and for you to hear a behind the scenes view of what OnlyFans is like, truly like, how it's exploiting people, and how God is redeeming lives. Well, I am so glad to have you on the show and excited to talk to you. Let's start off by talking and describing, like, you know, your journey to where you're at right now. Do people only see you for these two different parts of your life? I guess you've been, and I guess we should preface that you have an amazing redemptive story from really OnlyFans to, what would you say, to walking with Christ. And we're going to explore that today. We're going to kind of go behind the scenes in your life. So I would love for you to just share a little bit more about that part of your life to start off.
So for me, what happened is growing up, as I said, I have two older brothers. I'm the youngest in my family, and I'm the youngest on both sides of my family, and by like a substantial amount. So like my oldest brother, he's 9 years older than me. And this matters because it meant a couple different things. It meant that I was exposed to things from a really young age that I probably shouldn't have been exposed to. And it also meant that I believe anyways, that by the time it came around to me with my parents, like I was left to my own devices, basically. I could kind of do whatever I wanted, which is not a good mix. And so, you know, super early on, I was 13 years old and I was actually exposed to cocaine from family members. And that really opened up to just a whole world of really, really heavy mental health. Since as early as I can remember, I've always really struggled. Some of my earliest memories is me being, you know, 4 years old in kindergarten and feeling like I'm just here and I just want to get there. And I don't know what is going to help me to get from here to there, but I just want to be there. And that was always this overwhelming sense that was within me. And when I was 13 and I had this experience, it's not like I just kind of, you know, did drugs once and then that was it. It continued, you know, I never stopped. And so that just kind of exacerbated, you know, these feelings within me, this mental health, the manifestations, I guess, of the insecurities that came out of that. Is I thought, well, you know what, maybe if I can build a business, maybe if I can have money, maybe if, you know, I'm super successful, then I won't feel this way anymore. Maybe then I'll finally get there. Maybe then, you know, I'll matter. And so we kind of come through high school and all those different years and, you know, crazy things have happened to me in my life, unfortunately, lots of trauma, but graduating from high school, I really got into like the business world. So I literally did college for like a semester and dropped out because I hated it. And it was the worst thing ever for me.
We have that in common then.
Yeah, amazing. You're like, yeah, I get it. And I got into business and sales and startup world. And I loved it. I was obsessed with it. I absolutely loved sales. And so that's kind of what I did almost the entirety of my career until I was about 23, I would say. And this is when COVID happened. So we're in 2020 now. And one of my best friends started to build a hospitality business. And this sounds so bizarre, but COVID was literally the best thing for the business. It blew up. It ended up being like this really viral bagels and cookies business. And so I ended up helping my best friend in hospitality, and we're working like crazy hours. We're doing like 100-hour work weeks.
Mm.
When we actually open up, in between lockdowns and everything, they ended up building like another restaurant and stuff like that, and so we're just working insane hours. And so it came to 2022, and I was like, I need a vacation. Like, I can't keep doing this. I am absolutely exhausted. And so that's when I went to Europe for a month. And then when I was in Europe, I actually had one of my other friends decide that they wanted to start this thing called an OnlyFans agency. And so when I got back from Europe, they were like, hey, Vic, we have started this OnlyFans agency. They had friends who at the time were probably some of like the biggest OnlyFans girls that we had in Australia. And some of them were pretty popular, very big in the US as well. And they were complaining about their agencies. And so my friend has like this exceptional educational background. She was actually an ex-criminal defense lawyer. And so she's like, I've got the education. I can kind of do all the contracts, everything like that. We have girls that are in the industry. Why don't we get Vic involved? And she is the one who'll be able to do all the business stuff, all the marketing. And so that's how I got involved in the world of OnlyFans.
Wow. Wow. We're gonna jump into that. Would you mind if we go back for a minute into now that you've processed a lot of your life, what led you into that? Something that you said that I want to explore because I think it's really important if there is an answer, is what have you been able to identify at 4 years old, like what was that drove you to always like be searching or looking for something else?
Yeah, that's a fantastic question. I guess the honest answer is I'm still figuring it out. I think that we have done, like, by the grace of God, so much healing. I really have. But to be able to actually pinpoint like where did these feelings come from so early, it's still a bit of a journey of discovery, to be honest with you.
Yeah. And that's totally fair. I mean, life is a journey, and I just didn't know if you
Yeah.
have that because I think it's important. I speak to a lot of parents and do a lot of talks with like ministries that are trying to prevent like trafficking of children and things
Mm,
like that. And I always when I hear a story like that, I always think like there's something in children that a child needs to hear so that they aren't searching for that, and that
mm,
is a security that comes from their parents, hopefully. But
yeah.
anyways, yeah,
No, it's actually, I was going to say, it's a really fantastic point. And as I've healed on this journey, a really, really important thing that I have learned is exactly what you're saying of like the importance of like the nuclear family and even just like a stable family. I do believe that like a big contributing factor to a lot of the instability in my life was the unfortunate thing that my parents, yeah, they were immigrants. My dad's side of the family came to like a foreign country. They didn't speak the language, and they were village people. Like my grandmother in Greek, it's Yaya, would tease my grandfather, my papu, and she would say that she's more educated than him because she graduated grade 6. So it's like these are people with no education. And with that, obviously, there's a lot of abuse. There was a lot of substance abuse, supposedly. Even my brother's a journalist. I find this interesting. And he's really trying to trace back our history. And we only recently found out that my papu actually was kidnapped by rebels in Greece. And that really traumatized him. Yeah, so there's a lot of really interesting family history. My grandfather fought in World War II. Unfortunately, he was a pretty heavy abusive alcoholic as well. So I think that there's so much systemic, things that can be passed down within families. And then, unfortunately, that can also like foster if you don't heal correctly, right? That can really, really foster within your family. And so there isn't like, I guess, something specific and definitive in which I can be like, this was the event. But unfortunately, the environment in which I grew up in, we always say that about our parents, right? And they truly do. They do the best that they can. But when you have like such complex issues in the background, it's always going to kind of unfortunately bleed into the next generation.
Yeah, and I think that that's so true of many women that like our ministry serves, and women that have been in like online sex work, or they've, for our ministry, we serve women that are dancing in strip clubs, and we often find that a lot, and it's generational,
Mm.
and that's biblical too, and so that's a really wise, yeah, thing to bring up. So if we jump forward to your friend starts this agency, you're going to do the marketing because you're a businesswoman, and you, I guess, have some sort of conception of OnlyFans and like what it is. But walk us through that process, because I remember first talking to you and you didn't quite know what you were marketing, but also you weren't a Christian yet, right?
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. And I think that that's the crazy thing, right? Is even in the work I do now, so many people are like, I don't really know what OnlyFans is.
Hmm.
And I had no idea what it was. I'm, so desensitized on social media that, seeing half naked women in bikinis and lingerie and all of this, like it's normal, right? And so we've all heard this term OnlyFans, OnlyFans model, but yeah, no idea what it was. And so for me, I thought OnlyFans was just like an easy way to make money. I thought that maybe the girls just like sold their feet on there and like made a bunch of cash. And so like that's just the honest truth. And so that's what I was doing in the beginning. As you said, my role was marketing. And so I was doing all the forward facing social media stuff. And so I'm hoping this is helpful for people that maybe perhaps are not super familiar with OnlyFans and then even agencies. So OnlyFans is pornography. Like that's what it is. It's a pornography platform, and the main allure of OnlyFans is instant messaging. And so you cannot go viral on the OnlyFans platform. You have to externally promote your OnlyFans to bring people in. And so you do that through saying, DM me, come message me, come to my OnlyFans, come talk with me. And that's where you make all your money. And so for people that are like, what the heck is an agency? Like, what are they talking about? That's what we would do. So your role is to promote the girl's OnlyFans account, to be able to bring people in to OnlyFans. And then you have a team that sits there on these accounts pretending to be the girls to make money. And so I'm hoping the context is just helpful for people
Yeah.
listening. My role was all of the marketing stuff. So what we're talking about, all the social media, and it was to be able to lure people into the OnlyFans platform. And then the account manager was taking care of all the account managing stuff.
Yeah. No, that's extremely helpful because I think people joke in our culture today, like, are you going to put your feet on OnlyFans or take a feet? Like that's what they think it is, but it's
Yeah.
actually what you're saying is more harmful than that and isn't just that. And so, could you give us even a little more window? I mean, a platform for pornography, do you think that there's women being trafficked on those through OnlyFans somehow, or is it's strictly all talking and people that are not interacting other than through virtual means? Is that right?
Mm. Oh my gosh, that's a fantastic question. I think that that's the hard thing about when things are digital, right? Because it's like, well, where's the line? And I think that a lot of people automatically default, especially with OnlyFans, into thinking, oh, it's just girls in their bedroom. I've had people in activism world tell me that I thought it was the safer option. I thought that it took the pimp out of it. I thought it took the trafficker out of it. And it's like, well, unfortunately, you can still have a girl that is, under control of a pimp, and that person is forcing them to take content. You have no idea if that content is consensual. You have no idea if the girl wanted to do those things. It's not just a girl taking pictures. It is people having, sex on there. It's all these different things. And I actually have a friend who's quite vocal about this. Her name's Nala Ray, and we were doing a interview together, and she even verbatim says in that interview, if I never had an OnlyFans agency, I never would have done the things I did. They would put us in a house, they would put cameras in the rooms, they would give us all these drugs and alcohol, and then make us go do all this stuff. And so I think that that's a really harsh reality of OnlyFans and what you're talking about is it can kind of seem like the cuter option, like in a bizarre way, like the more mainstream, the more girly, the more safer option. But it's like, no, it literally is the same as the sexual exploitation industry. And there's actually no difference between it. It just looks different.
Yeah. Yeah. And especially in our culture today, where, I mean, most things are digitally advancing faster than you and I
Mm.
could even blink, especially with AI. I actually watched an interview with Paris Hilton yesterday from the US. I'm
Yeah.
not sure you know who that is, but she said there's 100,000 fake sexual illicit images that are made through AI of her being sold on the internet. And, it's this really dark, scary world that we live in with all of this. But this is one aspect of the world that most people know about OnlyFans. And so, can you talk a little bit about the chatters? Because that's like a level of exploitation that also exploits a vulnerable population. From my understanding, people in third world countries are doing the chatting.
Yeah, it's wild. And so for anyone listening, if you have any friends that are like, what do you mean the girl love? I literally had a guy tell me once, he goes, what do you mean the girl loves it? Like we talk all the time. And I was like, dude, I'm so sorry. It's not the girl. And so chatters are these people that you hire, as you said, from third world countries. And so their role is a commission role. So we kind of already established before that the main form of how you make money on OnlyFans is through instant messaging, right? And so that's through these things called pay-per-views, through custom requests, and through tips. And so if we put like our business brains on, and you have this girl that we're externally promoting on OnlyFans, right? I'm so sorry that we're externally promoting on social media for OnlyFans. Maybe this girl has hundreds of thousands of followers potentially. Imagine you're then funneling thousands of people to her OnlyFans to communicate. Well, she's not doing that, right? And the management's not doing that. So you hire people from third world countries, the Philippines, India. Well, they're the main ones, I'll be honest with you. And they pretend to be the girl on their behalf. And so their role is they have certain quotas that they have to hit. We literally had like a spreadsheet, and you would have these specific targets depending on the girl, how much they made. And your role, we would call it like the girlfriend experience. And so, again, if you're trying to build relationships with people, you can't sit there and like sext someone 24/7, right? So, depending on the type of account you have, if you have like a high volume account, you don't really need to build relationship. To some capacity, you do, but on majority of accounts, you're building relationships. So we would train, these people from third world countries on how do you make the subscriber feel like they're in a legitimate relationship with the girl. And then the chatter gets paid literally anywhere from 1 to 5 USD an hour. And they have to pretend to be these girls building these relationships anywhere from 6 to 7 days a week. And their shifts are anywhere from like 12 to 14-hour shifts. So as you said, it actually adds another layer into this whole kind of like exploitation ecosystem.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean that's labor trafficking. I mean, there's all sorts of things going on there, which again, so much of the world keeps advancing in this direction because as humans, we have dehumanized people to the
Mm.
point of commoditizing individuals to gain profit. And I, it really strikes me every time I hear this type of story, and even from the first time you and I talked, how really complex and dark this actually is. But I am excited to talk to you about how you began to see what was going on and how God began to work in your story. So if you can take us there, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. So what ended up happening for me is, as I've already said, I was doing all the marketing right. So my role was to make girls go as viral as possible, as quickly as possible on social media. But what we had realized over time And what we've kind of established here today is the main role of an OnlyFans agency is literally to pretend to be the girl. And so what we had noticed over, a period of about 7 or 8 months is that subscribers were starting to pick up on holes in our story. And so, they were having a conversation with the girl on Instagram and then finishing that conversation on OnlyFans. And because us as leadership or management, I'm so sorry, I should say, weren't communicating behind the scenes, the subs started to be like, is this really you? Like, I'm talking to you here and I'm finishing it here, and like something's not adding up. And that's when we went, oh, dang, we really have to change the business structure here. And so that's when I went from doing all the marketing to now doing less girls and doing the full life cycle now. So now I'm doing account management and I'm also doing marketing. And so for me, this was actually the first time I was jumping onto the back end of OnlyFans, because I hadn't done that yet, right? Like, I'm doing all the social media stuff and I'm seeing what we're actually doing. And I'm like, oh my goodness gracious me, like, we're selling porn. Like, this is crazy. And me personally, I've actually never been a consumer of pornography. And so I'm seeing porn for the first time, really. And it's my friends. It's these girls that I've built relationships with. And the only way I can explain it is I was just malfunctioning. Like, I'm crying every single day. I can't open up my laptop. I can't do my job. And I'm just devastated, like, honestly, because I'm looking at these girls and I'm going, you're so smart. You're so generous. You're so funny. Like, I still literally think of the girls every single time I say that and who I'm talking about. And I'm like, these are the dreams we're telling you to dream. Like, as I said, one of the owners of the agency was an ex-criminal defense lawyer. So we're getting girls out of modeling contracts. We're luring girls in. We're recruiting girls to be like, hey, these are the dreams you should be dreaming. This is the pinnacle of success. And I'm looking at this and I'm like, this feels wrong. Like, this doesn't feel good. But when I started to ask questions, to people at the agency, I believe in some places in America, you have these things that, the safe injecting rooms. Yeah. So when I started to ask people, like, what do they think about what we're doing? That's what some people would say to me. They would say, well, it's like a safe injecting heroin room. People need a safe place to do drugs. We give people a safe place to do porn. And, another person's like, yeah, I know this is pretty bad, but someone's got to do it. Like, and I just wasn't satisfied with any of the answers that I was getting. And so personally for me, as I already said, I was exposed to cocaine at 13. And again, the drugs didn't stop. Like, I'm almost 25 at this point, and it's out of control for me now. I'm staying awake for days and days on end. I'm drinking, to probably the worst and darkest I've ever drunk. And I'm just trying to numb out, but nothing's numbing me out. Nothing's making me feel good. And so I was like, okay, drugs aren't working, drinking's not working. Like, we're supposed to be the pinnacle of success, right? But this doesn't make me feel good. What can I do to feel good? And so that's when I had this genius idea. And I was like, I know, if I do like a super dramatic act of good, that will surely offset all the bad that I'm doing. That will surely make me feel better. Like, that will calm me out, like, or whatever I was thinking, right? And so I sat there and I was like, okay, what's a super dramatic act of good? And I'm like, I know, I'll go overseas and I'll help refugees. That's so dramatic. And I love this story so much. And I hope it encourages people, is like, that was me and my selfishness, right? Like, I was literally wanting to just feel better. I had in my brain, I would go to Greece, maybe I'll take some photos with like some refugees, like put it on my Instagram, like just make myself look great. And somehow it would calm me out. And so I was like, okay, I'll do that. And we were actually building a medicinal cannabis company. So I was like, cool, I'll go overseas, I'll help a bunch of refugees, I'll feel better about myself. And then when I come back to Australia, the cannabis business will be up and running, and then I don't have to work at the OnlyFans agency anymore. Cool, I'm a genius. How do I do this? And so that's when I had this memory that we probably, as a family-ish, stopped going to church when I was about 8 years old. And I just had this memory that this church that I went to as a kid had a refugee program. So I was like, oh, sick. I'll Google the church and I'll sign up for the refugee program. So I literally Google this church and I sign up for this outreach program. No idea what it is. But this is where obviously it starts to get, I guess, really, really cool. And this is where God really starts to move, And so I sign up for this outreach program, but that application actually never went to the outreach department. What happened is the young adults pastor got an email, and I know this because I got to see it months later. And the email said, Victoria wants to reach out to the church. Here's her number, call her. So about a week later, I get a call from this young adults pastor, and she goes, hey, I heard you want to come down to church. Can I invite you to come this Thursday? And I was like, okay, sure. I thought it was maybe like the vetting process of what Christians did. Like I had no idea. And so I go to this church on a Thursday, and like I can still remember, sitting in the car at the front of this church and just having voices literally like screaming in my head, being like, you can't go in there. Like you're such a bad person. Like you'll burst into flames if you walk into that church. And I just remember that what I believe anyways to be the voice of God, just in that moment, I just heard this voice that said, there's someone in there and they're waiting for you. Just go in. And so that's what gave me the courage to go in there. And like, I'm sitting in the front, like, guys, just so people can get that, like, I'm vaping. I'm probably smoking in between the vaping. Like, I'm a mess. Like,
that's exactly how God loves us, right? Like, we're a mess.
Yeah, literally just a hot mess.
Yeah.
But, that's what gave me the courage to be able to walk into this church. And I end up word vomiting for hours to this beautiful young adults pastor that I sell porn. Everyone tells me that it's good, but it feels bad. I don't know what to do. Help me. Mm-hmm. And she was so beautiful. She didn't do what I thought Christians would do. She didn't say, you're condemned, you're going to burn in hell, you're screwed, like all these different things. She just looks at me and goes, I really think you should come to church this Sunday. We have a guest speaker who's speaking, and I think you'll really resonate with them. So I was like, okay, sure, fine. So I drag my mum and dad to church on the Sunday with me. And literally the guest speaker in church is talking about OnlyFans. And it was like the craziest thing. So she's been in activism for about 40 years now, and she travels all around Australia, and she goes into schools, high schools and primary schools, and she sees firsthand what is happening to the next generation because of this over-sexualized, over-pornified culture. And she said this line, and I didn't understand it at the time, but that was the moment that like changed everything for me. She goes, Christians are supposed to be the salt and the light of the earth, and they have failed, and we are destroying the next generation. And that's when everything just clicked, and it went from my head into my heart, and I went, oh my gosh, I'm not crazy. Like what we are doing is wrong. This is bad. And so when she finished speaking, I literally ran down to her and I ran up to this stranger. And I said to her, hi, my name's Victoria. I work for an OnlyFans agency and I hate myself. And again, she didn't do what I thought Christians would do. She didn't, say you're going to burn in hell, like all these different things. She was so beautiful. She just looked at me again and goes, do you want to get lunch with me? And this beautiful woman sat with me for hours and just answered all my questions, ethical porn, positive, liberating, girl power, all the lies that I was believing. And she just spoke the truth to me. And that was literally on a Sunday. And by the Friday, I actually quit the OnlyFans agency. I walked away from, a 13-year friendship. I walked away from the cannabis business. I began the process to walk away from everything in my life. And literally 8 weeks later, I'm sober and I'm baptized. And this is what we've been doing ever since, traveling the world, speaking out against OnlyFans, and sharing this story of how Jesus just radically changed my life in 5 days.
Oh my goodness. I mean, it is such a beautiful story that if you're listening to this and you can hear and you just experience the power of God through Victoria's story, I mean, it's just truly a beautiful, beautiful testimony to how God can transform lives. Victoria, when you shared this with me and still just hearing it back, I'm just so thankful that you listened to those promptings and you did, walk through those doors of that church. And that's actually one of the focuses of this podcast is to really equip the church to do what exactly those, I don't know if it was the same two women from Thursday to Sunday, but both of those women you said didn't do what you expected them to do, which was to
Mm.
judge you and to condemn you. And they just showed up and they offered to go to coffee with you. And that's the message really that we want people in the church to hear. And so what would you say to the majority of our audience is, Christians in the church listening to this? What would you say to them that you would want to encourage them that if another woman who was on OnlyFans or working for, a marketing agency like this walked into their church, what would you want them to hear and how would you want them to respond to that woman?
Mm. Yeah, it's such a fantastic question because it's so important, right? Like those first encounters. I think the beautiful thing that I learned in that experience is that God really does tailor make every single encounter for us, right? And I think that's something that we can all fall into now. Also being Christian, I can totally understand is we think that we know what people need. Oh, they just need to give their life to Jesus right now. They just need prayer. They just need deliverance. They just need XYZ. And it's like we have no idea where someone is on their journey. We actually don't know. Yeah, is this the first time they've come into a church in their life? Are they coming back? Like, anyways, it's endless, right? What someone's coming in with. And I think one of the most beautiful things that we can do as believers is we have the wisdom of God at our disposal. So if you have someone that comes into your church and, they come up, oh, yep, it's my first time here, and they end up telling you, I'm a stripper or whatever, sit and listen. I think is the most powerful thing we can do. And you can even pray an internal prayer just to be super practical of God. What do I say here? What do I do? What do they need? Instead of jumping immediately to this is what I think you need. Because sometimes we can even go, oh, well, I did this and I did that. And maybe that worked for us, but maybe that's not what that person needs. And so I think that the most powerful thing that we can do as believers is sit and listen, ask questions, and be able to be what that person needs. And so someone might need practicals, they might need prayer, they might need deliverance, but maybe they might just need, like I did, someone to listen and to answer my questions. I say this to people and like, don't hear what I'm not saying in this, but that Sunday, I never had the gospel message preached to me. I never did one of these, like nothing, but Jesus was so powerful and so tangible in that day that I left that lunch going, I don't know what this Jesus thing is, but I think I have to follow it with all my heart. And it's because that's what God used to be able to, really speak to me. So I hope that that's helpful for Christians. But again, just to sit and listen, pray internally to the Lord. What does this person in front of me need? How can I be that? And don't be so quick to prescribe something for someone just because maybe you've done it or you think it's right. Really try to listen to what they're saying and listen to the wisdom of God of what does this person in front of me actually need.
Oh my goodness. I mean, amen. Preach, preach, preach. That is exactly the way our ministry teaches and equips people to, walk alongside hundreds of women that are in the industry in some way, shape, or form. And so you
Mm.
validated what we've been teaching and preaching ourselves for many, many years.
Yeah.
Because we aren't the savior. We can only point to the savior, and oftentimes that isn't all the time with words. It's the presence of God in us, sitting with and giving presence to the person in front of us and letting God do the work. And I love that you shared that. So we're kind of coming to a close, but there is a question that I want to ask you. If a woman that was contemplating getting on OnlyFans or, getting into that world, if you were to sit down for coffee with her and have a conversation before she made that decision, what would that conversation look like?
Oh, that's a fantastic question. I think it's always the curiosity piece that we should have, right? Is, well, why do you want to do this? because I think you could agree with me. We would both be able to strongly suggest that there's probably a lie that they're believing about themselves to some capacity. Well, this is all that I'm good for. This is my only option. I can't do anything else. Well, I need to make money to provide for X, Y, whatever the lie is that they're believing, and they believe that OnlyFans is going to be the solution to that. And so I think that that's what I would do is I'd sit there and I'd ask why, and hopefully be able to get to the root cause of what is it that you're believing that is a lie, and why do you think that OnlyFans is going to be the solution to that? And then, to the best of my capacity, tell the truth. So just say if they're like, well, I'm really struggling financially. Okay, cool. Well, you could go into OnlyFans. You might make millions, but the statistics show that the average wage is $130 an hour. The statistics show that there's 4.5 million creators and only 300 make more than $1 million a year. So instead of, maybe going for this, why don't we have a look at other options? If you're really struggling for a job, what can we get you? Can we get you in hospitality? Can we try help you to get, an insert XYZ job? So I think that that's kind of the most powerful thing I would hope that we'd be able to do if we were sitting with someone that was contemplating jumping onto OnlyFans.
That's so good. Because I think you are spot on that there often is a lie, a root lie that these women and even men are believing about themselves typically. And if we can get to that and help them see that by asking questions and being curious about that, I think that that would certainly, I know, help women at least think about the choice of getting on a platform like that. Is there any message that you are just, desperate to share with the world that you want people to know?
Yeah.
Outside of anything we've talked about, is there anything that you want people to hear?
Oh, that's another really good question. I've loved your questions today. They've been so fantastic. I hope that in hearing this story, I believe, I've touched on a couple things, obviously outside of the fact that I literally exploited women and sold pornography. But if you're listening to this and like you hear all these things, and even, the drugs and other things that I've kind of alluded to being exposed to, I hope that it just gives you hope. I think the biggest thing that I have learned in this journey with Jesus is that he's so safe. And like scripture, we kind of bypass when it says he binds up the brokenhearted. It's so underrated. I think the biggest miracle Jesus has done in my life, it's that he's healed my broken heart. And what I've learned is the more vulnerable I can be with him, the more detailed I can be with him of like, God, I did this, and like tell him everything. He's never met me with judgment. He's never met me with shame. It's only been freedom and love. And that's not just for me. I'm not special. That's what's on offer for everyone. And so I hope that in hearing this story, that it gives you permission to feel like you can go be so recklessly vulnerable with Jesus. You can literally tell him everything in detail, and he will meet you with love. And on the other side of that, you're going to find so much freedom, and you're going to find so much healing. And it's just, again, I think it's the most beautiful gift that I've been given, is that God has been so merciful to heal my broken heart, considering the crazy life that I lived. And so I just want everyone to know that's on offer for them too.
Praise be to God. That is such a beautiful truth about our God that we get to serve, and we get to call Father. So thank you so much for sharing with our audience and talking to me tonight about or your morning. You're already living in Friday.
It's already in tomorrow.
Yeah. My goodness, your story has truly inspired me, and I love that, and I can't wait for our audience to hear it. So thank you so much for being with us on this episode. Thank you for listening to the Rachelle Starr Podcast. If this conversation encouraged you or challenged you, I'd invite you to take the next step. whether that's learning more, getting involved, or sharing this episode with someone else. At Scarlet Hope, we believe consistent presence changes lives, and there's a place for you in this work. You can learn more at scarlethope.org.